If you've ever tried to add a little more edge or clarity to your sound and then you suddenly thought, wait, does that just sound nasal? You are not alone. This is a very common confusion I see with singers. Sometimes what feels nasal is a very helpful coordination. And sometimes what we think might be really beneficial sympathetic resonance, actually nasality getting in the way of a sound we might be trying to make. So in this video, I want to give you a really clear way to tell the difference between nasality and this word that we use sometimes, twang, and to give you some really simple tools that you can use to explore both. And hey there, if we have not met, my name is Dan Calloway. I teach musical theater voice and vocal pedagogy at Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. I work with singers on building efficient, expressive coordination across styles. And we're in the conservatory studio today, so please forgive the ambient noise you may hear. And also, I'm just finally coming off the tail end of some really gnarly laryngitis, so I don't have my full voice available to me today, but I'll do my best in demonstrating and sharing some exercises with you today. So, it's been a little bit of a road. All right, so, we make up sort of myths as singers sometimes, or we use what I call body logic, where sometimes we think that when someone says twang, as far as I understand, I could be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, I think the term twang was coined by Joe Estill, who was a vocal pioneer and really codified and mapped a lot of the ways that we make all these different sounds, especially as theater singers. A lot of belting, but she used that term twang to describe a certain coordination of sound. But a lot of times people think twang has nasality, or if a sound is bright or has a lot of high frequency color, a lot of times we will define that as nasal. And that's not actually accurate, because those two things are happening through different coordinations really of the vocal tract. So if I'm thinking of my vocal tract as the space from my larynx to either my mouth or the opening of my nose, twang and nasality are results of two different coordinations. Now, you can have a nasal sound that is twangy, so we'll get into that a little later. So let's define both of these. So nasality. Nasality is about where the sound is traveling. So as you can hear, the sound is traveling through my nose. When the soft palate lowers, air and here, let me get I have my little person here. So here's the soft palate, and in this, you can see right here, this is modeled that the soft palate is low. So if you were phonating in this coordination, you would be having vibrating air coming through the nose, okay? When the soft palate lifts, it puts a little ceiling there, and so then vibrating air is going to move through the oral cavity and not through the nasal cavity. So when I drop the soft palate, vibrating air is coming through the nose. When I raise the soft palate, vibrating air is mostly coming through my mouth, except when I'm saying my mouth. See, I'm using a nasal consonant there. M, N, N, G. The vibration train is coming through the mouth, and then the soft palate lowers, and the vibration train comes through the nose. So that is nasality. When the soft palate, right here, the soft palate is lowered, vibrating air can then travel through the nose. Nasality, or nasality, since my soft palate is lower. That's nasal, okay? So what people call twang or a bright edge quality, it is not about air going through the nose. You can have a twangy sound that does go through the nose, yeah? But it is about how we're shaping the vocal tract. It's usually involving a narrowing in the tract around the epilaryngeal area. So a lot of times this sort of like backward movement of the back of the tongue, narrowing the pharyngeal space, that is going to create twang. I'm having a hard time demoing twang today because my voice isn't completely back, but if I even sing a lower pitch, hey, hey, I've added twang. Even here. Hey, So that sound is raspy because I still have laryngitis, but that would be a twangy sound. Some people might say that's a nasal sound, but if I go, that's twangy, it's not changing when I close the nose. Twangy. It's not going to change when I close the nose. So twang is coming from a creation of brightness, ring, edge, acoustic power. That's usually a combination of many factors. Sometimes it's a little bit of an elevation of the larynx. Most of the time, always really, I would say, there is a narrowing in the vocal tract that creates more acoustic energy, and a lot of times there's a lowering of the soft palate. That can create a very twangy sound. Now, I grew up in North Carolina, and so varying southern accents appear. So my cousin Tommy, he would talk like this, and he'd say, "Now listen, I left that gate open down there in the field." So Tommy, you'd think you might call his voice nasal, but ain't none of that coming through the nose. All that's coming right through my mouth. See, watch this. I'm Tommy, and this is just how I talk. So it's not a nasal quality, that's really twangy. So a lot of times we think about that, but it's bright color in the tract. So the difference between nasality and twang, all right? Or even like there's a lot of twang in a lot of, when I lived in New York, there was a lot of twang because you had to get your voice across in a really loud street, right? So it was really divergent, the shape, but that's not nasal. Now, if you wanted to go twang and nasal, okay? Well, that twang and that thing went out too, okay? So, okay, so you can do a combo. Anyway, I got to take it a little easy. So twang, nasality, all right? Nasality coming from the lowering of the soft palate, vibrating air coming through the nose. Twang coming from a narrowing of the vocal tract, and often a lowering of the soft palate, sometimes a raising of the larynx. Lots of different elements offer what we call twang. Nasality, airflow direction, which tunnel is the train going through? Twang, overall acoustic shape. Those are two different coordinations of the vocal tract. And if you like thinking about the voice this way, I find it very helpful as a set of systems that interact. Feel free to grab the free voice map page that I provide on my website. It links to a lot of deep dive videos based on the systems of the voice: body breath, phonation, registration, resonance, and articulation. You can download that below, and that lays all of this out visually and links to some deep dive videos that describe the different systems. So why do these get confused a lot? It's because when you increase brightness or twang, you often feel more vibration in the front of the face. You're going to feel it around the nose, the cheekbones, the front of the skull. Often, not always. I never tell someone to chase a sense of buzz or ring here because not everybody feels things the same way. Some people call this event nasalence. Nasalence is literally the measurement of acoustic and vibrational energy around the nares. Is just the presence of acoustic energy in that area, but it does not necessarily mean that the sound is coming out of the nose. So a colleague of mine, Kevin Wilson, he would talk about buzz behind the nose and then buzz through the nose, depending on which coordination you're using. Behind the nose, nasalence; around the nose, nasalence; through the nose, nasality. So really simple test. There's a really easy way to tell the difference. So you just take a sound like, if you just go, E. Now just gently pinch your nose closed. E. If the sound changes dramatically, which it didn't there, that's through the mouth. E. E. So it's changing there. So I am going through the nose. If I pinch the nose, E, it will affect it, yeah. So you can always check that. E, literally just a little pinch the nose test. And sometimes, they're even, here, I'll go grab it. Even in the studio, sometimes we use these little nose clompers. So I don't like singing with this on because it makes me feel like my nose is being pinched, but sometimes people use things like that just to check. So that's a thing you can do. So if the sound stays mostly the same when you do the little nose close, you can be confident that the sound is traveling through the oral cavity. So even I'm like, hey, hey, hey! See, that's not a nasal sound, even though someone might want to describe that as nasal, because there's a lot of bright color. So it's just working on that distinction. Really simple diagnostic. And then a fun exercise you can do. You can make it really clear to your body. So you just want to start off, you'll start off with a little nasal sound. So you can start off with an NG, like the word sing, going. You'll feel vibration in the nose, airflow through the nasal passage. You can really tune into feeling it there in the pharynx in the back there. That is, by definition, nasality. Then you can switch to a non-nasal but bright sound. So you can go yeah, or like yeah, because you're going through that little J glide space. So just a contrast exercise like that. You're like, oh, really, really simple track change. And then just notice, a lot of times I like to point to where the air is moving through, rather than think, oh my gosh, where's my soft palate? If I just think about the direction of airflow, a lot of times the soft palate just moves very subtly. Your soft palate is always moving around when you are moving from an M to an N to an NG. As you speak, your soft palate already knows how to move. I mean, unless you're talking like this all the time, like I know people who do talk like this, but like, unless you're talking like this, your soft palate knows how to float up, so you don't have to obsess about it. It's very nimble, so it's just really mapping like, oh, you already know how to do that. So that's a fun thing to do, so you don't have to like get super obsessed and then over muscle the coordination of the soft palate. But you just notice when you go from that NG to the ya, and just notice how you feel the resonant feedback change for you. Notice where you're feeling. If I'm paying attention, I do feel some buzz there in the teeth, up in the forehead, but that's just me. Again, you pay attention to where you feel the sympathetic resonances. Everybody's body is different. And then a lot of times I'll like to go, rather than just like a distinct NG, I'll just make like a nasal vowel. Like I'll just use an ah, but I'll go nose, mouth, nose, mouth, nose, mouth. Like ah, and just playing around and feeling, oh, that's through my nose. Honestly, for like 10 years of my career on stage, I didn't understand the function of the soft palate. I just was trying to get vibrant color here. I probably sang like 20% through my nose most of the time and wasn't aware of it. I just thought I was accessing mask resonance. I would demonstrate the sound to you right now, but I just can't. But yeah, just know that I didn't really understand the function of the soft palate and the direction of the airflow probably until my 30s. I had a teacher in Los Angeles, Renee Souza, who explained that to me. So yeah, good information. So you can make up any exercise where you just alternate. Contrast is always our friend. It's like, I want to feel this one thing, let me compare it to another thing. So that's always really helpful, just to play around with contrast. And just notice, oh, where's my airflow moving? Where's the train going? Is it coming through the mouth or through the nose? Where am I feeling resonant acoustic feedback as a result of either? And then you can map almost anything. And so this is a great example of how all of our different systems interact. So soft palate is going to be directing the airflow pathway. Vocal tract shaping creates all kinds of acoustic results. And then again, you can make a twangy nasal sound. When you understand that, you don't have to guess anymore. You can say, oh, I'm going to direct my air through my mouth. Oh, I'm going to direct my air through my nose. What happens, so you have the tools and understanding of the mechanics, and then it's just a matter of repetition, contrast, and enough reps really to map things into motor learning, into your nervous system. So a lot of times, sometimes singers will try to avoid nasality completely, so that turns into like overlifting, overmuscling the soft palate. That can cause kind of a muffled sensation. So if I'm like, I don't know, if I'm like trying to, sometimes that can create a lot of that woofy sound you're hearing is my soft palate's come up, but it's also sort of like move the larynx down. So again, if I'm over muscling that, if I'm overdoing it, that's going to be a problem. Or sometimes we chase brightness and we accidentally drop into nasality. A lot of times I hear this on E vowels where I can't demo it right now, but but especially on higher stuff, E vowel is a big culprit for this. So the goal is not to never be nasal. The goal is to choose the coordination you actually want. There are some singers who use a lot of nasality. I'm thinking a lot of like Aaron Neville. I can't do Aaron Neville right now, I don't think, but I was like, look in his face. I can't do it. I'm too hoarse. That's my horse, Aaron Neville, today. But he used a lot of nasality in his sound. But take a listen for it. There are definitely places where a lot of nasality can come in. So, it just depends. So it's about you having choice. It's always about you just having a choice. Do I want some nasality in this sound? Do I want it to come completely through the oral cavity? What sound quality, what is the character of the sound that I want to embody? That's really all it is. So the practical application is if you want more clarity, ring in the sound, that is going to be about shaping the tract, using some anterior-posterior narrowing of the tongue into the pharynx, allowing some narrowing, maintaining a clear oral cavity pathway, and letting that acoustic neighborhood work for you. When when you employ a twangy coordination, you are creating a lot more bounce and amplification in the sound wave. So you want to observe how is that working for you. It is not trying to push or get things to ring in certain resonant pockets. A lot of times that can recruit muscles that will want to try to help the voice to be placed in certain places, and I find that often is counterproductive. It will often cause muscles to come into the picture that can create unnecessary tensions and inefficiencies. So again, just knowing what creates twang, what creates nasality. And just to say this clearly, if you've ever been told you sound nasal, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong. You got to get more specific about what system is doing what. Yeah, and just be very clear about, okay, wait, that's a very twangy sound. Do I want to add warmth? How do I add warmth? Check out the vocal tract series that walks you through all the different components of the vocal tract. That's a playlist on the channel you can see where all the different components of the vocal tract I talk about. And then, okay, do I want some nasality here? If so, I'm going to let that soft palate lower a little bit. And then if I want it not nasal, I'll just let him float right back up, okay? So again, it's contrast, it's choices, it's understanding comparisons and differences so that you have a frame of reference to know, oh, that makes that, and I can pick when I want to. And again, if you want a clear overview of how all these systems connect, you can grab the link to the free voice map below. And if you want the full training, the voice map course walks through each system step by step, and it gives you a very deep understanding of how all the systems of your voice work together. So you have a very clear toolbox, very clear compass and map that you can use to navigate your own voice. So experiment with this, get curious about the difference. I hope next time I see you, I'll have a little bit more available to me. And remember, there is a little more available to me. Thank you for being here through my hoarseness. And remember, there is only one you, and somebody would love to hear the story only you can sing. Love much? Now go sing, if you can. Nose, or through your mouth. You can go sing through your nose, or sing through your mouth.